As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate highway, I found myself pulling into a gas station on the outskirts of town. The flickering neon sign above the pumps spelled out "Fuel Stop," its letters casting an eerie glow in the fading light. Despite the chill in the air, a sense of foreboding washed over me as I stepped out of my car and approached the dimly lit convenience store. As I inserted my credit card into the pump, the only sound was the low hum of the nearby highway and the occasional creaking of the old sign in the breeze. Glancing around nervously, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Shrugging off my unease, I focused on the task at hand and began filling my tank. But as the gas flowed, my senses were suddenly assaulted by a pungent odor, a sickly sweet smell that seemed to seep into my very bones. Looking around, I realized the source of the stench, a decrepit dumpster tucked away in the corner of the lot. Curiosity getting the better of me, I approached cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. Peering inside, I recoiled in horror at the sight before me. The dumpster was filled to the brim with rotting food, discarded trash, and something else, something far more sinister. Nestled among the refuse lay a tattered backpack, its fabric stained dark with dried blood. My stomach churned as I realized the implications of what I was seeing. Without a second thought, I turned and bolted back to my car, my mind racing with fear. As I fumbled with the gas pump, my eyes darted nervously around the empty lot, searching for any sign of danger. But aside from the distant hum of passing cars, the night was eerily silent. With trembling hands, I replaced the nozzle and hurried inside the convenience store, desperate to put some distance between myself and whatever horrors lurked outside. But as I stepped through the door, I was greeted by a sight that chilled me to the core. The store was deserted, devoid of any sign of life save for the flickering fluorescent lights overhead. Shelves of dusty snacks and expired sodas lined the walls, casting long shadows that seemed to dance in the dim light. And behind the counter stood a solitary figure, a gaunt, hollow-eyed attendant whose gaze bore into me with a cold intensity. Forcing a nervous smile, I approached the counter and placed a few bills down, eager to make my escape. But as I turned to leave, a voice called out from behind me, a voice dripping with malice and menace. "Leaving so soon?" I froze, my heart pounding in my chest as I turned to face the source of the voice. Standing before me was the attendant, his features twisted into a malevolent grin that sent shivers down my spine. "Something wrong?" he asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. I opened my mouth to reply, but no words came out. Instead, I turned and fled, the sound of mocking laughter echoing in my ears as I raced out into the night. Back in my car, I slammed the door shut and peeled out of the gas station, leaving behind the horrors that lurked within. As I sped away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped something unspeakably sinister, that beneath the surface of this seemingly ordinary gas station lay a darkness beyond imagining. And as I drove on into the night, I couldn't help but wonder what other terrors awaited those who dared to stop at the fuel stop. I pulled into the gas station on the lonely stretch of highway, the flickering neon sign offering a beacon of hope in the darkness. The night air was thick with an eerie stillness, and a shiver ran down my spine as I stepped out of the car. As I approached the pump, a sense of unease settled over me. The station seemed deserted, and the only sound was the faint hum of electricity from the overhead lights. I glanced around nervously, half expecting to see shadows lurking in the corners. With a sigh of relief, I grabbed the nozzle and began to fill my tank. But as I waited, a chill wind whispered through the air, carrying with it the faint echo of voices. I glanced around, but there was no one in sight. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the darkness, a ghostly apparition with hollow eyes and tattered clothes. My heart raced as I stumbled back, the pump slipping from my grasp. The ghostly figure drew closer, its movements slow and deliberate. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. Panic surged through me as I realized I was face to face with a spirit from beyond the grave. With trembling hands, I fumbled for my keys, desperate to escape the gas station and its otherworldly inhabitant. But as I turned to flee, I found myself frozen in place, unable to move. The ghostly figure reached out a hand, its touch icy cold against my skin. I closed my eyes, bracing myself for the worst. But then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the apparition vanished into thin air. I stood there for a moment, trying to catch my breath, before finally stumbling back to my car. As I drove away from the gas station, my mind raced with questions. What had I just witnessed? Was it a trick of the light, or something more sinister? I may never know the truth, but one thing was certain: I would never forget the night I encountered the ghostly presence at the gas station on the lonely highway. And as I glanced back in the rearview mirror, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, even now, by unseen eyes from the world beyond. I pulled into the gas station, the only beacon of light on this desolate stretch of highway. The night air was thick with an eerie stillness, broken only by the faint hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. As I stepped out of my car, a shiver ran down my spine, a premonition of the terrors that awaited me. Entering the convenience store, I was greeted by a dimly lit interior, shelves stocked with dusty snacks and forgotten trinkets. The cashier, an old man with weary eyes, glanced up as I approached, but said nothing. His silence unnerved me, but I brushed it off as the product of a long night's work. I grabbed a soda from the fridge and headed to the counter to pay, but as I reached into my pocket for my wallet, I froze. There, sitting on the counter, was a newspaper article detailing a series of disappearances along this very stretch of road. The headline sent a chill down my spine: "Local residents vanish without a trace." I glanced around the store, suddenly acutely aware of how empty it was. Where were the other customers? And why was the cashier staring at me with such intensity? Unease gnawed at my stomach as I handed over the money, desperate to escape the suffocating atmosphere of the gas station. But as I turned to leave, I felt a hand on my shoulder, cold and clammy. "Be careful out there," the cashier said, his voice low and urgent. "There are things in these woods that no one dares speak of." I stumbled out into the night, the darkness pressing in around me like a suffocating blanket. Every shadow seemed to hide some unseen horror, and I quickened my pace, eager to put as much distance between myself and that cursed gas station as possible. But as I reached my car, I heard a sound behind me, a low, guttural growl that froze me in place. Slowly, I turned to face the darkness, my heart pounding in my chest. And then I saw it, a pair of glowing eyes, fierce and hungry, staring at me from the depths of the forest. With a surge of terror, I realized that I was not alone out here, and whatever lurked in the shadows was hungry for more than just gas. I leapt into my car and slammed the door shut, fumbling for the keys in my pocket. The engine roared to life and I peeled out of the gas station, leaving behind the horrors of the night. But as I glanced back in the rearview mirror, I saw the eyes again, glinting in the darkness, and I knew that this was only the beginning of my journey into the depths of fear.